Welcome back to Comic. All right, there we go. Welcome back to Comic Wars. Tonight, we're discussing about between Spawn, the Vengeful Anti-Hero from Todd McFarlane's Image Comics, and of course, Spawn Comics, and Mortal Kombat's very own Revenant Assassin, Scorpion. Tonight, we are going to be really needing the science tonight, so before we get into all of that, I just really wanted to make sure that was known, because there's a ton of stuff going on that we actually do need the calculation, so we can actually calculate everything out perfectly. All right. So, just remember, the victor of each match is announced during the outcome at the end of the show. This is going to be like right before the preview. So, without further ado, let's get into the overview. As usual, rules still stand. Guest intros and guesses. This would be the first thing we go over, but that requires having guests. Honestly, I haven't been seeking any guests out. I'm actually anticipating for second round, I want to go and start having some guests, so I will be inviting some people. And if anybody from the audience, of course, would like to participate, feel free to just drop a comment. And of course, you guys will get the matchup, so just make sure to drop a comment before either a Monday or Tuesday, whenever the next Comic Wars bout is. And we will go and see if we can get you set up into like a Zoom call or something, and we'll get that figured out. But this is where we would go and introduce our guests, have a little bit of, chatter back and forth, and then, of course, we get to their guesses, who they think would win the bout. Once again, this is a live stream. We are not calculating everything out perfectly. We're getting everything calculated for what their feats are and everything, and then we're going to go and talk about it in the stream. So I don't actually know who wins this. I do have a feeling, I will admit this one, I do have a strong feeling I know who's going to win this, but I want to go over it, and we're going to go and discuss some things. This is one of the few where I'm pretty sure I'll be able to call this one correctly. My guess right now is I think Spawn's going to just dominate this, but we're going to go over some things and talk about it. So let's we'll get into the next section here. Why isn't the music playing? Yeah, I'm not hearing anything at all. Weird. All right. Next up, we have the background details. This is where we go over things like age, height, weight, personality, and little miscellaneous information here. And we've actually, I believe we had one match where miscellaneous information's actually come in handy. It's been a little interesting, but this is where we go over some little details that they actually can flip a match because they can affect other ways the combat is actually going to take place. After that, then we get into the feats. Now, this is where we just start talking about what they can do. We're going to look at their strength feats. We're going to look at their speed, their durability, their agility, their martial prowess, their ingenuity. We're going to get into their powers, their weapons, gadgets, things like this. We get into all of it. Just to kind of label it out there, right? This is what they can do. This is what they bring to the battle. Yada, yada, yada. After that, then we get into the data analysis. This is where we start breaking things down. This is where we're going to talk about the science behind some things, the math, all that. It's not going to be a great deal we need to go and discuss tonight, but we do need to discuss it. And believe me, some of the stuff that you guys are going to be hearing is nuts. So, after that, then we get in the character pros and cons. This is where we start to kind of, sometimes we just give the points out here on some of the features. More often than not, background is usually where we get the points here, because it's just, here's a clear and obvious thing. We don't really need to discuss it too much, Somebody weighs more, they throw their weight in their punches or kicks, they're going to be a little more devastating. More than likely, and this also depends on their skill, of course, but once again, when you're talking about martial artists, if you got two people that are very skilled in martial arts, this is going to matter. Then you're going to be looking at things like reach and all this. So we can give these things straight away, no problem. As for the next part, which is going to be our guest analysis, this is where we allow our guests to discuss some things about the character, what they think. You know, is this going to play a key factor? Would this play a key factor? Different scenarios they might be thinking of where this would give it an advantage, that, and you know, others might not get an advantage here. Somebody might have a disadvantage. And of course, they're allowed to change their guesses. Excuse me. If they do so desire. I can imagine we have some guests. I imagine that's probably going to happen. After that, then we've got the outcome. Now, this is where we just break it down. Now, last few matches, we've had to have some scenarios because the characters we pitted up against were actually pretty similar. This season's actually had a lot more of that than last season. And you'll see when it gets into round 2, round 3, and the final round, all that, things do change and scenarios don't necessarily matter as much, but they can. And more often than not, your final match is going to be very, very scenario-driven. That's typically how we're going to see these things go. So, but after that, then we get into the preview. So, all right, well, let's get into our first combatant. It's Spawn. So his creator is Todd McFarlane. You guys might know of him from some of his work he's done with Marvel, which included the character Venom. He was actually the one who first drew him. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he also created him that. I didn't do any really big research on that, but he created Spawn. You can see the similarities, of course. Black suit, you know, the white markings, all this. I mean, it's similar. But his real name is Al Simmons, or I believe it's Albert Francis Simmons. And so he's 40 years old. That's what we're going to say here, because they say when you look at his stuff, he's anywhere between 30s and 40s. We don't actually know what his actual height is his age is per se. You can calculate it out. He's anywhere between his 30s and 40s. We're just going to go and just call him 40 just to be even on this one. As for his height, we're not going to include his Al Simmons height or weight because it doesn't matter. He is Spawn. This is in his suit no matter what, all right? So he's 6 foot 11 inches tall. He's huge. And he weighs 450 pounds. He's a big guy. Very, very big guy. As for his occupation, well, he's a vigilante, but he's also a hellspawn. You can definitely argue he's had many other occupations as well, but those are the two big ones. As for his area of operation, well, I love it how my computer cuts this out, but I typed in New York City, New York, New York City. Okay, it's New York City. As for his personality, well, he's cold, he's brooding, he's intelligent, cunning, and, well, his downside is he's pessimistic. He truly believes his life is nothing but tragedy, and if you look at it, really, he has plenty of reason to say that. Excuse me. As for some miscellaneous information about the guy, well, Spawn has crossed over into... there it is again, another typo. How is this happening? There's got to be an issue with my keyboard here, so I will be adjusting that hopefully in the next few weeks. But he's crossed over into several, not several, different universes, including the DC universe, Invincible, and Wildcats. He's also crossed over with Savage Dragon and a few other Image Comics titles. But now let's get into the meat and potatoes here, right? We're going to get into the strength. Well, he is easily superhuman levels. So just a big thing to go and take a look at here. He's capable of lifting and throwing a large chunk of a building, which is at least 60,000 pounds, and he easily does so. Easily punches through solid concrete and steel. Now, there is a few other feats when it comes to lifting. He was also able to lift, or really hold up, I'm trying to remember remember how to pronounce the guy's name, but it's like Uriz or Uraz or something like this. He's a giant. Massive. He's taller than most of these buildings. We're talking literally a kaiju level threat, and he just holds him up. He holds his leg up, no problem. Ridiculously strong. So when it comes to his lifting or his, with his legs and all this, I mean, he's quite strong. Doesn't really make a difference. He's got arm and leg strength, core strength. I mean, this guy's just, he's built like a truck. This guy's like a tank, really. He's just going to go and just power through whatever. So that should tell you how strong he is. He's very, very strong. As for his durability, he's capable of withstanding a fall from at least 30,000 feet. Just completely shrugged it off after he hit the ground. Survived an electrical blast of at least 600,000 volts. Once again, just pretty much just shrugged it off. Okay, whatever. Can walk through lava and hellfire. Just want to make that very clear. All right, I mean, this says something because you got you got standard fire. It's not as hot as hellfire. I could not find any degree measurement for how hot hellfire is in comparison to just standard like napalm or something like this. I couldn't find anything, but it appears more than likely it's hotter than lava. Now, lava itself, I mean, you look at the heat on that, I mean, we're looking at like surface level sun type of heat. I mean, it's hot. So, at least what's being told to us about all this, right? Tanks, blows from Savage Dragon. Now keep this in mind. This guy's very, very strong. And he's capable of lifting 340 tons, of 680,000 pounds. That's his lifting strength, and he just tanks hits from him, no problem. He's also got an extreme pain tolerance. And, I mean, it's to the point where it's like, does this guy really feel pain? Well, he does. We know he does. Because he can be hurt. It just takes a lot. He can survive unfazed without his organs. I mean, literally any organ you name, he can survive without it, pretty much. I think there's an exclusion of the brain, but we've never seen that really tested. So we do know if he gets decapitated, he can die. He's that type of immortal. He goes through a lot of pain if he gets completely eviscerated. I mean, there's things, he can still get hurt, and he can still die. If he also runs out of his necroplasm, well, he gets sent back to hell. So, he's got lots of ways where he can get manipulated right back into hell. But when it comes to his speed and agility, he easily dodges point-blank gunfire. And we're talking like the likes of like Nightwing and Crow from last season. I mean, I don't want to say Crow, but yeah, actually Crow, he was able to a little bit, but from Nightwing of all people, easily dodged. He also broke the sound barrier mid-combat, which, keep in mind, that's 770 miles per hour. His maximum movement speed, which is only seen in short bursts, keep that in mind, very, very short bursts, is 1/10 the speed of light, which, if you break that down, that's 670,600,000 miles per hour, roughly. Pretty insane. The guy can move real quick. As for combat capabilities and his martial prowess, of course, so he's mastered judo, jiu-jitsu, karate, kung fu, jeet kune do, aikido, taekwondo, boxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, hapkido, muay thai, ninjutsu, which ninjutsu really isn't a style of combat. There's a lot of people that will say it is. It's a lie. It's not. Okay? When it came down to, I don't want to give a big long history lesson here, but the ninja were actually practicing martial arts. A lot of these guys, but they weren't, that they would actually just regular martial arts that they learned, or it was just, a lot of street combat, like street fighting and things like this. They did have some that did learn some fighting styles legitimately, but a lot of those ninjas were farmers. Look at the kunai, for instance. What is that? That evolved from the spade they had over there, like a little trowel, like a shovel. That's where that came from. And they show that in the Mortal Kombat movie, so you guys will we're going to go over that in a little bit. But so ninjutsu really isn't one, but it's been labeled as this is one of his fighting styles. On top of that, American karate. I've seen this before. You can debate there's difference, and then there's, of course, those that are going to say there's not. Me, I would argue there is a slight difference to some degree. I would say that American Karate is a little more aggressive.